What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my picks for MLB
Tuesday, September 29th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, MLB playoffs. Let's take a look at this 4-game main slate. So at the pitcher position, I like Kenta Maeda with a 7% pitching advantage over the Houston Astros. Kenta Maeda pitches his best ball versus righty batters, only giving up a .510 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 6 righties here tonight. On top of that, the Astros have only hit 7 of his last 43 pitches, batting a .163 batting average. Kenta Maeda is $9,700 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,700 less on DraftKings. He has an ERA of 2.70. He's 6-1 on the season, pitching an average of 90 pitches per game, averaging 41 fantasy points per game. He scored 46, 33, and 52 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Kenta Maeda here versus the Houston Astros. Okay, let's take a look at the first base position. I like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Although he doesn't have a batting advantage here, he is batting against Blake Snell, who's a good pitcher, but most of these pitchers are good pitchers here in the playoffs. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's batting a .765 OPS versus lefties. And Blake Snell is giving up a .708 OPS versus righties. And I like this pick because although it's a small sample size, Guerrero Jr. is 2 for 3 with a 1.750 OPS versus Snell. And he's only $3,300 FanDuel salary and $900 more on DraftKings. He's averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 19, 3, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. here versus Blake Snell. Okay, who do we have at the second base position? I like Cavan Biggio with a 16% batting advantage over that same pitcher, Blake Snell. Cavan Biggio is batting 5% better versus lefty pitchers. He's batting a .825 OPS versus lefties. And Blake Snell throws his worst ball versus lefty batters, 11% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .793 OPS versus lefties. He's 2 for 7 with a .286 batting average and a .572 OPS versus Snell. He's $3,600 FanDuel salary and $1,400 more on DraftKings. He's averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 6, 25, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games. Projected at 11.4 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Cavan Biggio here versus Blake Snell.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Joey Wendell with a 49% batting advantage over Matt Shoemaker. Joey Wendell is batting 30% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .749 OPS versus righties. And Matt Shoemaker, he throws his worst ball versus lefty batters. 18% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .771 OPS versus lefties. Now, Wendell is 0 for 4 versus Shoemaker, but I think he makes a nice value play here because he's only $2,700 FanDuel salary and $1,200 more on DraftKings. He's averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season, but he's been on fire, scoring 13, 16, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He's projected at 10.3 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Joey Wendell here versus Matt Shoemaker. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I like Tim Anderson with a 67% batting advantage over Jesus Luzardo. Tim Anderson is batting 33% better versus lefty pitchers. He's batting a 1.171 OPS versus lefties. And Jesus Luzardo, he throws his worst ball versus righty batters. 34% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a .664 OPS versus righties. Anderson is $3,800 FanDuel salary and $1,300 more on DraftKings. He's averaging 13 fantasy points per game on the season, although he's only scored 6, 0, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He's projected at 11 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Tim Anderson here versus Jesus Luzardo. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I like Nelson Cruz batting against Zach Greinke. Nelson Cruz is batting a .907 OPS versus righties, and Zach Greinke throws his worst ball versus righty batters, 19% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .744 OPS versus righties. Cruz is 5 for 19, batting a .263 batting average and a .774 OPS versus Greinke. He's $3,900 FanDuel salary and $1,000 more on DraftKings. He's averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 7, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. I think he's due for a big game here. He's projected at 12 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Nelson Cruz here versus Zach Greinke.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this MLB slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.